The Pura X is the weirdest folding phone ever made by Huawei. But besides the confusing orientation, is there anything revolutionary about reinventing the flip phone? Let's get some boring stuff out of the way. It's a beautifully crafted and well-built phone, just like all Huawei devices. Both LTPO2 OLED 120Hz displays are eye-poppingly nice to look at. Speakers offer surround sound effects. They're not astounding, but it's pretty decent. Nothing revolutionary on the camera department. It's not a flagship setup. It is able to produce some sophisticated street photography under generous lighting, including this building under overcast weather. Indoor photography is a hit or miss. Night photography is average at best and terrible most of the time. Dynamic range is definitely not its strong point. It's very difficult to get clarity when zoomed in. One weird thing about the photography experience is that you cannot choose to shoot at 16:9. The closest aspect ratio available is at full frame at 16:10, the same as the unfolded screen. This brings me to talk about the elephant in the room. The phone folds and unfolds in an unconventional way, which causes a heap of confusion other than just changing orientation between inner and outer screen. Firstly, the charging port changes place. You have to remember to plug it from the side when the phone is folded. Secondly, the power and volume button swaps places. Power button to the side when folded, and at the top when unfolded. The 6.3-inch main display is not a big screen, but the 16:10 aspect ratio makes it feel bigger than a traditional clamshell phone. It doesn't feel overwhelming, more like holding a personal journal vertically. It's comfortable to the hands, though you will need two hands to type properly. But because of the width, you view more information, especially on navigations where I find myself zoom in and out less. Of course, not all apps are optimized for this aspect ratio, such as Instagram and Facebook, but they are at least still legible, unlike other traditional foldables. To my surprise, some apps like YouTube can be viewed horizontally and have columned viewing like Notes. The same cannot be said about the front screen. I know outside screens on flip phones are notorious for its terrible usability, but the Pura X is definitely worse. Red Note is simply unusable, the same as WeChat and Notes. This square screen is only good for previews and quick actions. As a result, you will spend most of the time with it unfolded. I wish Huawei would somehow implement a vertical screen for apps to scale properly. HarmonyOS Next pre-installed on a device is a completely overhauled operating system. Also known as Pure Blood Harmony, it no longer contains Android codes, nor would it support Android apps natively anymore. This completely changes the app situation I have talked about before. Previously, Harmony apps and Android apps could coexist in the same interface. This is no longer the case. Android apps can now only be run via emulation inside a dedicated folder. The same goes for previous version of Harmony apps. Any non-pure Harmony OS apps will have to stay inside another emulation folder. Confused? So was I. Imagine Apple's newly released iOS 26, except the entire operating system is new and incompatible with the old. Only apps written with iOS 26 codes can operate inside the phone as freely as we know it. Widgets, live notifications, extended menus, etc. But if the iOS app was written before iOS 26, it will lose all these features and could only be accessed under emulation inside a dedicated folder and nowhere else. This is exactly what's happening with HarmonyOS Next. These are the Android apps I use and they cannot be moved outside of this folder. Same goes for legacy Harmony apps. This doesn't just screw up my customization on the phone, but also degrades the user experience. Emulated apps can't do split screen like native apps. They can't be brought up from the side panel, and my music app can't be controlled from the notification center. It just keeps playing music from the background, even when other media is playing elsewhere at the same time. With all that said, HarmonyOS Next is just as feature-packed and silky smooth as before, even though its Kirin 9020 SoC is still running on 7nm architecture. Everything is super snappy, from general user interface, NFC activation, down to gestures. It's so well optimized. Every convenient gestures I have covered before are still here, though it's worth noting that I am now able to pull up its assistant just by holding up the bottom bar. I love it, and I wonder why Apple hasn't done the same thing with Siri yet. My main complaint is that the grid is stuck at 4x5, making the icons uncontrollably huge for me. As for the battery, it's easily an all-day phone. With a modest 4,720 mAh, it still retains over 20% of battery after 36 hours of usage from full. This includes a lot of doom scrolling on Red Note and YouTube Kids. As for charging, it tops up from 10% to 100 in just over an hour, with its 66 watt of wired charging. The Pura X is definitely not a photography powerhouse, and in essence is a foldable phone that attempts to offer a hybrid of clamshell phone when folded and a book-style folding phone when unfolded. However, the constant change of orientation could put you off completely, which is a shame because I believe this form factor could work if it has a more workable outside screen. With all that said, the biggest hurdle you'll encounter is still the app situation, which has evolved to a whole new level in order to completely ditch Android codes and become a standalone operating system.